Colorado's own Bellco Credit Union makes it possible to manage your money on the go. Check your balance, send money to a friend, or deposit a check virtually anytime, anywhere. Banking with Bellco is just that easy. See what's possible today at bellco.org.
Good evening and welcome to Bellco Credit Union Presents Financial Tips to Live Your Best Life. My name is Armando Diaz. I am the branch manager for Bellco Credit Union Lone Tree location. This was originally to be an in-person event, but since we wanted to ensure that as many people as possible were able to attend the event, we decided to shift it to a stream only and only have essential personnel in the room with us at that time. This also allows us to maintain safe social distancing between myself and our presenter, Sarah Stein. A couple of housekeeping items. You will all be entered into this presentation on mute, but we do want to hear from you. You can write down your questions via the chat box in the top right of the screen. You will need to confirm your email before entering that chat box or having that function available to you. Also, please share your feedback and tips in that chat so that way we can all learn from each other. At the end of the presentation, Sarah and I will join you and share a couple of those questions and tips that you guys have suggested through that chat function. But I will also have special information for you guys to receive a gift at one of our Douglas County branches. At Bellco Credit Union, we are committed to improving your quality of life by helping you build your wealth and secure your financial future. We are proud to have amazing employees focused on helping you realize your financial possibilities. I am honored to introduce one of those employees, Sarah Stein. She's the Lone Tree Sales and Service Supervisor. Sarah has 6 years of banking experience and has spent the last 2.5 years providing credit education, helping other individuals to reach their financial goals. Sarah, take it away.
Thank you, Armando. Hi, everyone. As you said, my name is Sarah, and I am the branch supervisor at our Lone Tree location. I've been in the financial world for roughly 6 years, and as you said, 2.5 of that was spent as a credit coach. And basically, that's just a fancy term for I helped fix people's relationship with money. And so today, we're going to talk about making budgets work. But before we kind of jump into this, what I really want us to do is clear our heads of any preconceived notion that we've ever had about making a budget, the word budget, anything. I want you to just clear your heads of that today. And today I want us to start thinking about a budget as having more. So when I was a credit coach, I worked with a lot of different people from, people that were millionaires to people that worked paycheck to paycheck. And both people had the things that they could cut costs on and things that they could work on. So I also am a single mom to an 8-year-old daughter, and we moved out here last year from Minnesota, and our goal was to purchase a home. So I'm really happy to say that this year I actually did achieve that goal. So if you're in there or out in the audience tonight, I guess there's not a live audience, but out there virtually, and you're thinking that you can't do this, I just want you to know that you can, because I've done it. So let's jump right in. Today we're going to talk about some of our personal obstacles when it comes to budgeting, so kind of what's holding us back. We will also talk about how we can start creating a format to track and analyze our spending. And then we'll also start talking about listing some goals and discuss the importance of reducing our debt and saving for emergencies. And then we will also talk about some different strategies and things that we can do in our day-to-day to kind of apply those for our daily habits. So studies have actually shown that the more we focus on our budget, the less stress we actually have. And I really feel like that is just anything in our life. When we don't focus on something, a problem or an issue that comes up, it doesn't go away. Oftentimes it gets bigger and it festers, and we end up creating more of a problem. So the more we focus on our budget, the less stress we're going to have, and it's going to be easier to pay down our bills, reduce our debt, achieve our goals, and save money. So let's talk about why we might not budget. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this quote, but it's kind of a long one. our thoughts become our words become our beliefs become our actions become our habits, and our habits become our reality. I really like this quote because it reminds me that it all starts with your thoughts. So I want you to start thinking about, what is it that I'm thinking about when I hear the word budget, or when I start thinking about creating a budget, or maybe it's just money in general. What is it that you're thinking in your head when you're thinking about those things? So feel free to share your reason in the chat if you feel comfortable. As we said, we do want to hear from you guys. But here's just some reasons here. You might feel like it's too complicated, or maybe you just are comfortable with what you've been doing and you don't really know any other way. Maybe you don't really know what it is that's holding you back, and that's why you're here today. But once you figure it out, I promise you it's going to be that much easier to start overcoming it. So I actually worked with one girl in particular. Her name was Tiffany, and she was younger. She was actually in the military in Kuwait when I was working with her, and she had never really, been taught any of the financial world. And so a lot of her beliefs around money came from her mom and watching what her mother did. So after talking through things with me and really putting together a budget and just talking about credit and finances in general, her goal was to buy a home. And so she really started to gain the confidence that she needed in order to achieve that goal. But what was holding her back was the fact that she had took on her mother's beliefs around money and around finances. So if that is similar to you, just take a look at your situation. I mean, ask yourself, am I taking on somebody else's beliefs, or, am I doing just the same thing that I've seen other people do? Because change is possible. And I've worked with a lot of people who have made the commitment and achieved their goals. So that's just one example of that. So goals. It's important to have things to look forward to, obviously, and I, again, think that that's in any area of our life, not just financially. We should always have things to look forward to in our personal life and in our business life, things that we're, thriving for or working towards. And so before you even start listing any goals, I first want us to think about what is our true why for doing for making these changes today. And when you are thinking of your why, dig deep. Don't just think, oh, okay, I want more money to go on vacation. I want you to close your eyes and really imagine what it is that brings you joy. What is it that you're willing to fight for to make these changes? For me, that was obviously my daughter. I, growing up, had moved a lot as a kid. And so for me, it was really important that my daughter have the stability of living in, unfortunately, like one or two at this point, but one or two homes throughout her life. I really didn't want her to move around like I did. I wanted her to have that stability. So whenever I felt discouraged or like I didn't know where I was going, or just feeling like I wasn't going to make it, I would actually sit there and imagine myself in my new house, doing the things that I wanted to do, cooking in my new kitchen, decorating in my new house. And honestly, I don't know if you've read this, but our brains don't actually know the difference between imagining something and it actually happening. So the more that we can practice visualizing what we want, the better it's going to be. So what's important to you? What do you value? Here we have what's called 50-30-20 budget rule. And really, I want us to look at this as more of a foundation for our budget. I don't want you to think that you have to follow this to a T, because obviously all of our financial situations are different, right? Some of us might have gone to college and we have more student loan debt, so therefore we have to put more funds towards Those, like in this case, it would be needs, because you don't want to be behind on your student loans. But yeah, needs would be, the things that are of a necessity. So your car payments, your mortgage, all of that stuff that we basically need to survive, right? Wants is obviously going to be the things that we do want, so going out to eat and fun stuff like that. And then of course savings, allocating funds for savings is going to be important too. So the easiest way to kind of start this is actually by printing off the last month or two of your bank statements and just going through and highlighting every transaction, if it's Starbucks or whatever, and you can add up each category, and then you can start to see a bigger picture of where your money's going. And I know that sounds daunting and scary, because I've done it. And it's just really eye-opening when we start to see where our money is going. I actually worked with one woman in particular who we figured out she was spending $740 a month on coffee and going out and getting coffee and drinks, for the month. And that's equates to like almost $9,000 a year. So if you look at the smaller picture of, month to month, imagine if she would have put that money in a savings account, she would have had $9,000 for herself. So the more we can start looking at saving money as paying ourselves, the easier it'll be as well. So some things to remember when building our budget is just making sure that we do build that emergency savings. It's really important to just have that. I mean, imagine where we would be if we did have that in the beginning of this year. Me personally, I was thankful to have, the opportunity that I did and, wasn't affected by this. But for people that were, I can't imagine how struggle or, the struggles that you must have went through. So every little bit counts when it comes to this, really. So start today, open up that emergency savings. And then also contributing to a retirement fund, that's a big one. I mean, a lot of our jobs offer 401k, so talk with your employer, see what it is that they can offer. And then also another resource is just your banking institution. A lot of times they might have something like Bellco offers, which is actually a QSO financial specialist, and they focus on retirement and savings. So some resources there for you as well. And then lastly, we need to also make sure that we pay down our debts and that we're allocating funds to pay down those debts. And if we start looking at paying down those debts as actually freeing up more funds to put towards savings, that will, kind of help the mindset around that as well. So let's talk a little bit about interest rates. Interest rates that are higher are typically going to be your things like credit cards that have no collateral behind them. And then things that have lower interest rates are going to be your things like your home equity lines of credit, your auto loans, anything that has collateral behind the money is going to have lower interest rates. So why is it important to know these interest rates? Well, let's take a look at this example. So in this example, we got 15% for our credit card, and they charge $5,000 to the credit card. So their new balance is now, after interest, $5,060, but let's say the minimum payment's only $50. So you're not actually putting a dent in the original balance that you put on your credit card. So it's really important to look at that when you start allocating funds for your credit cards. So when you're building your budget, actually write your interest rate next to your credit card. And we'll talk about some more ways that strategies that we can help pay down some of those debts as well. So earlier I said paying off debts to free up funds, looking at it that way is going to help you to kind of see it as the bigger picture of, saving money and having more money for yourself. This is kind of an example of, how getting rid of some of our debt can free up more money for us. So Maddie wants to build wealth to buy her first home. Can she accomplish her goals? So she makes $4,500 a month. She's got $500 in student loan payments. $200 in credit card payments, and then $350 for her car payment. So that totals $1,050 a month. If you're where I'm from, back in Minnesota, that's probably roughly around a mortgage payment. But if you're here in Colorado, that might be more like half the mortgage payment. So you can see how getting rid of some of these debts would actually free up more money for her to put towards that down payment on her new home. So let's talk about some debt repayment strategies. There's two methods that we're going to reference here today, the avalanche method and the snowball method. So the avalanche method is actually going to focus on paying off debts with the highest amount of interest first. So in this example, it's going to be letter A at 26%. And then the snowball method is going to focus on paying off debts with the lowest balance first. So in this example, that'd be letter B with a balance of $800. And I've worked with people who have used both of these methods, honestly. Both of them work. It really just depends on your situation and kind of how your mindset works. I've had people say that when they use the avalanche method, they feel like it kind of gets paid off quicker. However, the snowball method for people, they've told me that it's helped them to kind of stay motivated because they're paying off those lower balances first. And so they kind of have mini successes to celebrate along the way. So just think about and look at your specific situation and just kind of think of, what is going to work better for you and your mindset. So the importance of having an emergency savings. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but why is it important? Well, the average financial shock is around $2,000, and we've been there. Even myself included. We've used a credit card to pay for an emergency. Our debt increases, and then of course if we carry that balance on our credit card, interest is then applied, and we're paying interest on that as well. So it's good to have an additional 3 to 6 months of living expenses as well. Again, looking back at the beginning of this year, where would we have been had we had that cushion? Oftentimes we wait until we feel motivated to make these changes, but I really challenge you to take action, because sometimes when we take action, that actually creates the motivation that we were looking for. And of course, go back to your why. Why are you doing this? So let's talk about freeing up some funds, maybe some areas that might be obvious, but maybe might not be obvious. Auto insurance is a big one. Obviously, when I purchased my home, I looked at refinancing, or not refinancing, but I looked at different quotes to kind of rope my auto insurance in with my homeowner's insurance, and I was actually able to save some money that way. I actually had a friend too that moved out here recently from Indiana, and they were paying, I think he said like $245 a month for their auto insurance. And when they told their company that they'd be moving to Colorado, they're like, oh, that's actually, that's gonna go up a little bit. And then they got back to him with a quote, and it was like $500 something. And he's like, what? No. So he shopped around here in Colorado, and he actually found something that was only $80 a month. So huge difference for him. He ended up saving a bunch of money. Sometimes we want to keep that loyalty that we've had with the same agent or company, but oftentimes if we do look around, we might be able to find something better too. So another big one that people are doing right now is refinancing their homes. Rates are really low right now, so that's also something that you can look at taking advantage of. And then larger purchases. I know when I was younger, I thought that all you had to do was walk into the nearest dealership, pick out the prettiest car that you liked, and go home. But obviously, I'm sure we all know now that we're older, it's much better to slow down, shop around, and look for the best deal. The largest purchase I had to make was for my couch for my new house. And I actually spent about 3 months just searching all of these different sites. And there was a particular couch that I liked, and I had saw it across several different sites. And I was kind of just like that. I think it was Memorial Day rolled around. that was a holiday recently, wasn't it? But I ended up getting it for $1,800 with shipping included, and the highest I had saw it, I think, was $2,500, $2,700. So I ended up saving a lot of money there. So holidays is another good one that you can, kind of take advantage of those deals. So what are some ways we can increase the pain of paying or decrease the ease of it? It sounds kind of weird, so I'll give you an example. I have a friend who has a savings account at a separate financial institution. She has no debit card, no web access, no phone access. She literally has to physically go to the bank to withdraw that money. So for her, that works because it makes it harder for her to get the access to those funds. They're not open on Saturdays. She works Monday through Friday. So she's pretty much got, like maybe one day a week when she gets off early to pull out that cash if she needs it. But that's one way that we can, help ourselves to kind of stay away from that money. So if you guys have any examples that have worked for you, feel free to share them again with us in the chat. Some other things that I've done and that I've had people use is carrying a certain amount of cash on them that they allocate for their daily expenses or daily wants if it's going out to eat. And then I've had other people use the envelope trick where you, instead of purchasing that lunch or whatever it is, you bring lunch from home and then you stick that money in an envelope and save it for later. So if you're like me and you're more hands-on, that approach really worked for me. And then another thing that I actually used to do is I had a separate debit card, and every paycheck I would actually transfer $150 to that separate debit card, and that was my fun money, if you will, that I used. So it went into a separate account, and then I had, my other one to maintain for bills and everything else. So just think about some ways that you can make spending harder for yourself or make saving harder, or, you know what I mean, getting money out of a savings account harder. Some other areas that we can free up some funds that may have been obvious. Couponing is a big one. Of course, check expiration dates on that because you don't want to get any bad food. Checking clearance aisles, again, look for your defects or any damage before you make those purchases. Checking markdown sites like I did for my couch. Really shopping around is good, especially online. There's a lot of different sites out there now, I feel like. Buying in bulk. But of course, asking ourselves if we're going to use it all, right? But Costco, Sam's Club, those are great ones where you can buy in bulk. And then, of course, getting it when it's hot, when there's a deal. But again, ask yourself, is this something that I truly need right now? And go from there. So what are some money saving tips that have worked for you? Again, we'd love to hear from you in the chat. But I've worked with several different people who've used many different things. A hands-on one is just carrying a small notebook with you and writing down every purchase that you make. I've had people tell me that held them accountable for going to the store and, oh gosh, I really don't want to write down whatever it is in my book, so that they just carried that with them everywhere. And then I've had the envelope trick like we talked about before, where people would put the money in the envelope. So just, there's so many things out there. Another great one that maybe your financial institution offers is a roundup savings. And it's basically every purchase you make with your Bellco card, it actually rounds it up to the nearest dollar and will put it into your savings account. So asking your financial institution if they offer something like that. And then another one that I have used is actually before I get to the checkout line, I actually put 5 items back that I kind of feel like maybe I don't need them right now, or I can wait on purchasing them. But I have put 5 items back just to save some money in that regard. So making it stick. The biggest thing here is focusing on the rewards versus punishment. The more we focus on, or what we focus on, we create more of. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like having a new car or purchasing a new car and you're driving in it down the road for one of the first times, and you start to look around and you start noticing, oh, hey, that's my car. Oh, there's my car too. You start seeing your car everywhere. And it's not that, you know, these cars just suddenly appeared. They were always there. It's just that you started focusing on them because you now have that vehicle. And so just a perfect example of how what we focus on, we actually create more of. And then making it automatic. Roundup savings, like I talked about, you know, asking your financial institution if they have any easy automatic ways for you to kind of save money as you go. Another big one for setting things up automatic, obviously, is a 401k. So anything that you can do to make it automatic is going to help you. Personally, I actually have all of my bills set up automatically. And for me, before, that was actually really scary because money coming out of my account seemed just, you know, like scary. I didn't want it to go away. So I just was really nervous about the idea of having anything set up automatic. And I used to just pay all my bills as I went. But that just got so overwhelming because there was just so many different things and sites to log into. And, you know, so once I started making more of my stuff automatic, I just have a calendar that I keep in the back of my journal, and it has every date that a bill comes out. And so I know for the whole month what day everything is coming out, and then how much I have actually after that to put towards savings or my other debts. So making it automatic is a big one. You're definitely going to feel less stress when you start setting some things up that are automatic, and you know, we don't have to think about them. Creating buckets, that's actually a big one. I've always had one savings account for the longest time, and what I found is that it was really easy to just take money out of that account. It was just a pool of money, and it was just sitting there, and I didn't really know what it was for. It didn't have a, you know, specific like goal or limit in mind of what balance that I wanted in there. It just was kind of just this pool of money. And so when I started to create more savings accounts, I ended up, it was actually easier because I had, you know, this savings for a motorcycle, working towards it right now, but I get to watch that account grow as I go. And you know, it's not always a large amount that I'm transferring. Sometimes it's smaller amounts, but every little bit counts, right? So having different buckets for different things can actually help you to track, you know, where you're at. If you know exactly, you know, how much it's going to be or how much you need for, you know, maybe it's home renovations or new tires for the car, you know, whatever it is, just creating that small savings account, separate bucket, and putting a little bit of money in there each week or month or pay period, whatever you end up doing when you create your budget. The last thing here is getting real-time feedback. So I'm sure, again, you can talk with your financial institution. Bellco does have a lot of different alerts that we can set up. You know, when your balance reaches a certain threshold in your account, you can get alerts. There's, you know, it will alert you when a bill is about to come out. There's so many different things within the actual Bellco app that you can use, and I'm sure with your financial institution as well. So get with somebody at your bank or one of us after. We'd love to help you. So you've taken the first step today by coming to this presentation. The next step is to take action and start today. So if you don't have time today, pull out your calendar, pick a day that you're going to do this, start thinking about your values and what you want. And you know, we actually shared a budgeting worksheet with you. However, if you feel you're more hands-on and you want to write it down, or even an Excel spreadsheet if you want to create your own, you can also do that. Whatever works for you. We've learned a lot today. Now it's time to find out what your why is and put your money where your heart is. Lastly, I want to leave you with this saying that really helped me with my day-to-day mindset and spending, and it's this: if we are not happy with what we have now, how can we be happy with more? You see, I used to think that happiness was a destination to get to. You know, once I have this, I'll be happy. Or once I have this, I'll be happy. But as I got older, what I discovered is that actually happiness is based on our values and how we measure those values. So really ask yourself, what is it, you know, how am I measuring my happiness? What is it that I'm doing, you know, to measure my happiness? So, and remember, the more we focus on our budget, the more we'll have a clearer picture of where our money's going. I really appreciate everyone joining us today. It's been my pleasure sharing all of this information with you. I think we have Armando here to answer or read off some questions that might have come up in the chat. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah, for sharing all those great stories and the content with us tonight. And like you said, we did get a couple of questions out of the chat, so I'll share that with you guys right now. Question number one, what should I take into account when making a budget?
The big picture, all of it. Really, like I said before, getting back to your values. You know, what is it that you really are looking for, that you want to achieve in all of this? What's the bigger picture? Yeah.
Question number two, how often should I update my budget?
That really depends. Honestly, if you're like a realtor or you have a budget that's very, it fluctuates a lot, I would say definitely look at and update your budget maybe a little bit more month to month. However, if you're someone who is salary-based or, you know, you have a pretty set income, you know, addressing it every, I don't know, 3 to 6 months or whenever there's some sort of financial change is good too, like you buy a new dog or take on something else. Yeah.
Fabulous. Is there a good way to track my expenses?
Yes, there's many great ways. As we talked about, obviously through your financial institution, there's actually, it really can break it down to entertainment and every category of all of your spending area online. So that's a great tool. I would definitely check with your financial institution to see what they offer online for budgeting.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This question, my husband's income is commission-based and we never earn the same amount of money each month. What is the best way to budget, not knowing what our income will be?
Yeah, so as I said before, if you have a fluctuating income or an income that isn't as stable as, you know, salary or hourly, updating that monthly is going to be a lot better for you, just because you know that it's going to be more month to month for you and it's going to change.
Perfect. Several of us work for para or a para-covered employer. Do you consider para contributions to be a part of the 20% savings?
Yeah. That was an easy one.
And I believe this is the last question that we were able to get. It's how should I prioritize paying down my debts and saving for different things?
So paying down debt is obviously, I mean, we want to take care of our obligations first. So really look at your specific financial situation and really focus on the things that are of a, you know, obligation first. So those bigger ones like the mortgage, the car payment, obviously credit cards and everything like that. You know, as we talked about, we do want to allocate a little bit more funds towards those. But when applying either of those strategies, one thing that you can do is just pay more towards one and the minimum towards the rest. So, and if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. So don't worry about, you know, putting more money towards all of the cards. I would say maybe focus on one and then just make the minimum payment towards the other ones.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of you for spending the time with us tonight. We hope you came away with some valuable tips and some tools that you could put into practice right away. As Sarah mentioned, we did email out a little budgeting tool for you. Looks very similar to this little piece of paper here. If you did not by any means get an email with that particular attachment, please let us know in the chat. We'd be happy to get that emailed out to you right away. As a thank you for participating in the event tonight, we have for you a goodie bag that you can pick up at any one of our Douglas County locations. That would be the Lone Tree office, Parker, or Castle Rock. These goodie bags will have your name that you used to register for the chat this evening, so be sure that you go in and ask for that name. And you can find our addresses at those locations on our website at bellco.org. And finally, we wanted to thank Douglas County Library for hosting this event and all the connections that they help for us to make in the community. We plan to host many additional seminars in 2021, so be on the lookout for additional emails from Douglas County Library for those invites. Once again, thank you very much for joining us and have a wonderful evening.
Colorado's own Bellco Credit Union makes it possible to manage your money on the go. Check your balance, send money to a friend, or deposit a check virtually anytime, anywhere. Banking with Bellco is just that easy. See what's possible today at bellco.org.